In part 5, we start the day with a short drive to the ferry terminal in Wellington and cross the Cook Strait using the inter-islander ferry. We arrive in Picton on the South Island, we do some wine tasting, we visit a black sand beach and see a seal colony at Ohau Point, and finally arrive in Kaikura for our overnight stop. We make our way to the ferry terminal for the inter-islander ferry. We were guided to a waiting area so the heavy trucks could load ahead of us. Then we were guided to another holding area for queuing. Then finally given the go-ahead to drive the short distance to the actual ferry itself. We were going to be traveling on the ferry named Kaitaki. Kaitaki is a roll-on, roll-off ferry built in 1995. In June 2005, the ferry was subleased to Kiwi Rail. In 2017, Kiwi Rail purchased the ferry from the leasing company, and it has remained in service with Kiwi Rail since then. This is a view from the open deck looking back at the Wellington Harbour area. The ferry continues to load with car drivers driving on in one direction and making a U-turn, so they will drive off straight when the ferry docks. Here is another view of the surrounding area showing the many homes nestled on the hillside of Wellington Harbour area. Here is another cargo ship that looks like it's fully laden and ready to depart. I was really thankful that the seas were calm, as I get seasick pretty easily and I didn't want a rough crossing ruining my trip. It takes about 3 hours port to port, with about 1 hour in open waters of Cook Strait. You can see an airplane taking off from Wellington Airport. The main diesel engines increase power as the ship gets ready to depart. The thrusters move the ship away from the dock as the main propellers pull the ship backward before turning it to face in the direction of travel. Here you can see the ship moving backwards out of the dock. The main propellers power up and turn the ship 180 degrees to turn the bow in the direction of travel. The powerful vibrations of the engines caused the alarm on the truck to go up repeatedly, and it became such a nuisance that they announced for the owner of the vehicle to come and disable the alarm for the duration of the trip. We are well and truly underway now. The ferry is powered by 4 Seltzer Type 8 CAL-40S engines. Each engine provides 5,760 kilowatts of power, which is about 7,700 horsepower, for a combined total of 30,800 horsepower to move the ferry at a maximum speed of 20 knots. The inter-islander fleet currently consists of 3 ships: the Aratere, the Kairahi, which you see here, and the Kaitaki, on which we are sailing. This is a competing ferry service. I saw some windmills in the distance on the southwest tip of North Island. As we head out of the protected channel into the open seas, they were calm and peaceful, which I was greatly thankful for, as I get seasick quite easily. This is a main forward-facing seating area in the front of the ship with some really comfortable reclining seats. There was also a small cafeteria on board. We are now sailing into the protected channel of the South Island known as Queen Charlotte Sound. By the way, folks, there is an important distinction between a sound and a fjord. A fjord is a flooded, glacially carved valley, and a sound is a flooded river valley. The ferry makes a wide, slow, sweeping turn into Queen Charlotte Sound, making sure that the ferry stays in deep water. In researching this commercial farm, it said this is located in Oyster Bay, so I'm assuming or guessing that these are oyster farms. I saw several of these floating island farms in this channel. As we sailed through this channel, the shimmering blue waters were truly mesmerizing, as was the rugged coastline on both sides of the Queen Charlotte Sound. Some people are lucky enough and rich enough to live on the coast of this beautiful channel. This is the third ship in the inter-islander fleet, the Arater. We were just like two ships silently passing in the night, except it wasn't night. It may be hard to see, but I saw dozens of clear jellyfish in the waters of this area. The ship makes another slow, wide sweeping turn, staying mid-channel. We are now approaching the port in Picton and the end of the ferry trip. Thankfully, it was a really nice and smooth journey and I thoroughly enjoyed the trip. There's the town of Picton in front of us. This is my final attempt to capture some jellyfish on video. As we approach the harbor, the ship does another 180-degree turn, so the stern docks into the bay. This way the trucks and larger vehicles can just drive off while the cars have to loop around. The main propeller pods are rotated to drive the ship backward into the docking bay. As the ship continued to slowly maneuver into the dock, they announced that all passengers should return to their vehicles ready to disembark. This is the town of Picton. There's nothing special here really, except the marina, the harbor, and a few shops. At the end of the main street there is a memorial to the soldiers who lost their lives in World War I. I was in the mood for a real fish and chips lunch, just like in England, and I found this place called the Paper Fish. I highly recommend it if you are looking for real fish and chips. The proprietor was a really cool guy and looked like someone who could play Santa Claus at Christmas. As we made our way further inland, we stopped at a winery called Framingham for some wine tasting. This whole region has dozens of independent wineries. I couldn't visit the production factory as they were actively making wine and public access was prohibited. While Morten and Madison were busy tasting wines, I decided to walk the vineyard and see the vines for myself. There are hundreds of numbered rows with mature plants. Each row had a numbered post to identify which row it is for ease of reference for harvesting or for periodic maintenance. While scouting the area, I came across some small bunches of grapes still left on the mature vines. I tried some of the leftover grapes, and they weren't very big, maybe half an inch in diameter, and they weren't very sweet either, and had 2 to 4 huge seeds inside. You can see Morten and Madison tasting the various samples of wines they were given.
And there's the scorekeeper.
Oh yeah.
You can see Madison cleansing her palate before tasting the next wine.
Not for me.
As we made our way further south to the town of Kaikura for our overnight stop, we stopped at a black sand beach for a quick look around and to stretch our legs. The black sand was quite granular and littered with large pebbles which had been rounded by erosion. We also saw several of these driftwood structures built by unknown people. You can see the large rounded pebbles all over the beach. There were hundreds of seagulls nesting on this rocky outcrop. All of a sudden, 6 Labradors showed up and started running around us, enjoying the waters and chasing after their favorite tennis ball, which was thrown by their owner. We continue south along New Zealand State Highway 1. Incidentally, this is the road that was blocked due to a landslide from the 7.8 magnitude earthquake of 2016. The original road was blocked with so much debris, they actually built a new road to bypass the blockage, as you will see later. We arrived at Ohau Point Lookout. In the distance you can see a better view of the landslide that blocked this road. This image shows the original road and the newly constructed bypass road. Tons and tons of debris still remain as a reminder of the devastation that an earthquake can cause and its aftermath. We turn our gaze seaward to check out the pointy-nosed fur seals basking in the last rays of the setting sun. There were a lot of seal pups around, and this one here you can see is suckling his mom. Here's another pup getting a quick drink from his mom. Seal milk has a very high fat content, which can be as much as 60% fat. So the pups gain weight and insulating blubber rather quickly. Due to the close proximity of so many seals and seal pups, petty squabbles often break out, as you can see here. We are now driving alongside the debris from the landslide. We arrived later in Kaikura for our overnight stay at the Dusky Lodge. These are some still shots taken during a nighttime walk on the black sand beach in Kaikura. It was almost a full moon, as you can see here. This is the main road with many shops and restaurants on either side. This building is a library and the Kaikura Civic Center. The exterior facade of this building is meant to resemble the ribs of a whale. which relates to the historical operation and existence of this town.